Welcome in, folks. What a gorgeous day on tap as we kick off this week, and lots to cover over the weekend. We'll bring you up to speed with some of the stories that you may have missed, some that are just very recent. We'll give it all to you coming up here in just moments. And, of course, you can join the program at any time. Here's that number to dial in, 616-774-2424. 616-774-2424. Just dial in, give us a buzz, and, of course, we'll put you through.
Now today's Big Three.
The stories that matter most, you'll be talking about these around the water cooler, the dinner table, no matter where you are. These are those stories. All powered by our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage. You know, they've been helping folks save a ton of dough throughout the last several years. We've been telling you about them. Of course, they're continuing with creative ways to help put some more money back in your pocket, especially if you want to get your house in order, some things that you need to get done. Maybe consolidate some credit card debt. Give them a call. They have various different options, but everybody's different. So the option they may have for you is going to be custom tailored to you. The entire team, Dave Galloway, a call today. Of course, the number 616-974-9105. You go online to hhmlending.com. Well,
Number one.
the good news, the pandemic is over. At least according to Joe Biden last night on 60 Minutes.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape.
That's not true. Kids are still wearing masks in some of those early aged settings, and it is really sad to watch. Traumatic for these children. Still masked up, of course. That's because of Biden. And will he run in 2024? You talk more about that. We'll get into it all coming up in just moments. Stand by for that. Yeah, he's kind of waffling. Hurricane Fiona knocking out power to the island of Puerto Rico. The Category 1 storm made landfall yesterday afternoon, breaking destructive winds, life-threatening flash floods to the U.S. territory. Praying for those folks as they try to get things back on track. But you know what I noticed this time around? It is not the president's fault. Last time there was a hurricane and it hit Puerto Rico, somehow it was the president's fault. Now, SUVs may still be in trouble, but, you know, we're switching those over. So everything's good. Don't blame Cal Farts. They didn't do anything. A stock sell-off set to continue today. They're looking at the Dow futures down 200 points already as rates surge. They're looking at a couple of different things. FedEx and the CEO saying over the weekend, what is it, Friday? We think, recession and even worse is on the way. But we're already in the recession, folks. He's signaling for more. And, of course, that stock tanking, many others on Friday dropping. Keeping an eye on all of it for you this morning. We'll get to the latest coming up. The Queen's funeral happening today, too, and the pomp and circumstance, wall to wall at all of the televisions in our studio. But this is probably all that you'll hear me talk about it, because there are much more pressing things here going on right back at home.
It starts with...
We get into all of it. You can join us, of course, as I said. The Talkback feature is live on the iHeartRadio app. Just click that microphone. All you have to do, sound off. You can rant, rave, you can whatever it is that you want to do. Ask a question. Coming up next, we'll talk about some of those issues. Bidenflation, of course, the immigration issues as well, the border completely open. But it's not just those folks that are streaming into Martha's Vineyards by the tens, literally the tens. They're coming across the border by the thousands every day. Martha's Vineyard had a problem with 50 of them. Was that it? We'll talk about that, but there are deeper, bigger issues that open border causes. We'll get into all of it. Joining us next, John Gibbs joins us right here, News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Focus focused on what matters to you. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
Find out how to protect your loved ones and avoid nursing home poverty with me, David Carrier, your family's personal attorney.
Good morning, folks. We check real quick in with John. Looks like John's here, so I want to make sure he's good. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Justin. How's it going?
Doing very well. Thank you very much. You look good. You sound good as always. Just wanted to make sure technically we had everything lined up, so I think we're set to go. Hang on one second. We'll be right back with you, sir.
Great.
We'll say good morning to a couple of folks watching this morning on Facebook and Rumble. Let's see here. Get her as well. Laura, good morning. Appreciate you as always. Good to see you. Sherry, Debbie, Paula, Tim, Naomi. Hope y'all had a great weekend. It was restful. Charmaine. Tom, good to see you. Roxanne over on Rumble, the Rumblers. Blue Angel. Steve, Jim, Mungo, Cook Garden So, good to see you too. Alex, Reagan, Flatlander, Bolette, Josh, Deed, Marcia, and Sheila all over on Getter this morning. We are firing things up. We'll check the talkbacks coming up as well. If you want to join the show, you can. You can also text me. I've got a new text number. 616-636-1676. Those are the lines. Stand by, folks. Stand by. Folks, we've heard a lot about masculinity these days, but what we little hear about is testosterone. Have you had your levels checked? It is something you may want to look at because it can cause low testosterone levels, guys, can cause things that you may not even be aware of. You're having issues right now. Maybe you're suffering from low energy, motivation, weight gain, muscle loss, irritability, anxiety, depression, all those things. You're at work and maybe you just can't pay attention. The stress and things like that can also amplify this. Belly fat, feeling bloated. The folks at Mentality are working to make sure that you're taking care of it because they can solve that problem. First thing you got to do is find out what your levels are. Find out where those issues are. It's FDA approved. They've got testosterone treatment, board certified physicians who are working with most insurance. Mentality is a local healthcare facility specifically dedicated to helping men feel and perform at their best. And you can find out more today. Just check out Mentality today at lowtusa.com. Go to lowtusa.com. That's lowtusa.com to get the information and see if you can maybe get back on track and make that shift. It's very important that we do that because we need you. Hey, we are in a fight, folks, and we need you. We need everybody at their best right now, especially the men, so you can be fathers, husbands. You can show up where you are at work and everywhere else that you need to be the way that God created you to. Those are major issues, and we're fighting those together. Speaking of the fight, John Gibbs joins us right now. He's in the fight. He's running for Congress. John, I appreciate you being here with us today in West Michigan's 3rd District. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on, as always, Justin.
Absolutely. So you were in a fight yourself, and one of the things that I know you are, you, by the way, I had to say, man, I see you out kissing hands, shaking babies. Maybe it's the other way around, but you were out meeting folks. One of the things that led to your, I think, victory against freshman Congressman Peter Meyer was the fact that you were willing to go out and talk to the people and have conversations. And by the way, that hasn't let up at all, has it?
No, it hasn't. We're still hitting the streets every day. We're out there meeting folks. During the primary, we went and visited every single city and township in this new congressional district. We met thousands and thousands of people. And I think that made a huge difference in winning. We're going to keep doing the same thing here in the general election. My general election opponent, her name is also Hillary, as it turns out. Great gift from heaven. She's not going to be able to go do that. She doesn't have a grassroots base of support. So we're going to be nailing her hard, going out there and meeting people, getting yard signs out and knocking doors. So it's going to be a great process up to November.
Yeah, one of the things, speaking of Hillary, her and Hillary and Biden, they're all kind of She's trying to distance herself. I know that they want to talk about how, Trump endorsed candidates or Republicans want to distance themselves from Trump. That couldn't be further from the truth. I know he's coming back in October 1st, here to Michigan to campaign for folks. But, I noticed more than anything, Whitmer, who's riding with Biden, is now hiding from him here in the state of Michigan. But I think Hillary's trying to do the same thing. These people don't want to be seen in the same lumped into the same. I don't even know if Biden wants to be lumped into the same category with himself. He doesn't know if he's going to run in 2024 is what he said. I don't even know if he knows who he is or where he is sometimes. But the damage he's done is real, and the folks are feeling it on a daily basis. And no wonder she doesn't want to be lumped into that category. But let's talk about some of those things. Biden inflation is through the roof. We're paying more for gas and groceries and everything else these days. And people are really feeling that pain.
Yes, they are. And, it should be called hiding from Biden. That's our new slogan, I suppose. But it's too late for that. Hillary has already been endorsed by Biden last cycle. So we're going to nail her on that. She also, I call her Pelosi's cousin, just tongue in cheek. But she's going to be a perfect carbon copy of Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi is very, very disliked here in our district as well as around the country. And if Hillary were to get in there, she's going to do everything that Pelosi wants her to do. So it'll be an absolute disaster, in addition to doing everything Biden wants them to do. So people don't want that. People have looked at the results. They've looked at the gas prices. They've looked at the grocery stores. They've looked at how they have much less money in their bank account. You're losing one paycheck a year worth of money due to the inflation we're having now. It's absolutely insane. People don't want that. We're going to get the word out there really strong and hard. They can try to run from Pelosi and run from Biden all they want, but the fact is they're together like fingers on the same hand, and we're going to keep nailing that point home.
One of the big issues that I've seen we're dealing with right now, in fact, I just mentioned at the top of the show we were just talking when I introed you, is the every day coming across that border more and more. Martha's Vineyard had a really tough time with 50 folks showing up who crossed the border illegal. 50. But, they're coming across the border by the thousand. Democrat El Paso mayor talking about how every day 1,000, 2,000 folks cross that border from we don't know. It's not just Mexico. It's all over the world. We don't know who some of these folks are. In fact, the numbers are staggering. And there's more than just people coming across that border. The trafficking of drugs and humans on top of it make this a recipe for disaster.
1,300 migrants a day coming to your city. Describe for us the challenge. Do you have the resources you need to deal with this?
Well, the numbers are not 1,300. The numbers are 2 days ago we had almost 2,000. We had a little bit over 1,900. Yesterday we had, the day before yesterday, we had a little bit over 1,500. So the numbers have been continuing to increase. And, that's continued the rise. And that's because a lot of the people, and probably about 80% of them are coming from Venezuela. And that's where a big part of the migrant surge is coming from.
Biden said last week that these folks, because of DeSantis sending them from Florida, Venezuelans from Florida, which I thought was interesting. How did they get to Florida? Somehow he said that they're being used as political pawns because DeSantis sent them up to Martha's Vineyard. Well, how did they get to Florida in the first place? The truth is these folks are being used as political pawns. They always have, and it's always been to gain power for folks on the left in the Democrat Party. And John Gibbs, who's running for Congress, I just got to ask you, how do we stop this? Because until some of these folks really begin to understand that this border issue is not just an issue of, well, whether or not you're tolerant or not, the folks on the left aren't. They're not compassionate using these people as political pawns. It's absolutely devastating what's happening. But also the trafficking, not just trafficking humans, but trafficking of drugs, fentanyl deaths. I know Biden said the pandemics are over, but the fentanyl deaths, overdoses by this Chinese-made drug, fentanyl, that's coming across the border at astounding record paces every single day, is killing Americans and young Americans at record paces and numbers that should make us all concerned.
That's absolutely right. I mean, this is a huge crisis no matter how you look at it. There's enough fentanyl coming across to kill, 120,000 Americans a year overdosing. It's absolute madness, and it's total dereliction on behalf of the Biden administration. They can get this under control easily. They empower the Border Patrol, they empower Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, There's a lot that they could be done to first secure the border physically, as President Trump did. Secondly, to allow interior enforcement. Third, to fix our asylum policies, which are totally being abused right now. So there's so much that they could do to be addressing this problem. You want to talk about humanity? 600 are dying per year. 600 of these people are trying to come into our country. They're trying to, I don't blame them for trying to come here if I was from some of those places. But the fact is, we can't take everybody. We just can't. And 600 are dying. That's a record number, the highest it's ever been. Biden is literally getting these people human trafficked and killed, these poor souls that are trying to come over here. So he's got blood in his hands, too. We had far less deaths than that in the Trump administration. So he's just getting innocent people killed here as well. So there's a lot of trouble happening on the border, no matter what way you look at it. By the way, my opponent, Hillary, was an immigration lawyer in the DOJ under Obama. Her job was literally to fight to keep people here who have been deported, very dangerous individuals who have been convicted of crimes. She went and fought to keep them in this country instead of sending them back home. So she's a very dangerous individual in immigration. She was part of the worst, fighting for it literally as her career, and is associated with many radical immigration groups. So you can bet if she were to ever get in there, which is not going to happen, this problem would get even worse than it already is right now.
Yeah, it's just a shame. Not only obviously are those folks who are hurting, and I think you can make the argument. Look, these people want to come here. Maybe we ought to have a process, but shouldn't that be an orderly process? There are folks who have immigrated here orderly, who have done it the right, and they've waited years and years. I've talked to some of these people, and by the way, these people going through that process, they couldn't love this country more and learn the respect for some of the ways that we do things. But we've got to make sure. I mean, these folks in Martha's Vineyard, they don't rip the doors off of their homes. They all live in gated communities and whatnot. Obama's got that huge mansion there, and they just couldn't take them there. I mean, they understand what fences are all about. They understand what doors are all about. We ought to have a process to make these things very orderly, and of course, in the process, secure our southern border and make sure that folks here in America are safe. John Gibbs is running for Congress. He wants to do that. And I know you've been talking, like I said, to folks on the campaign trail. What are some of the other big issues in West Michigan that are standing out to folks, John?
We, of course, hear about grocery stores. It's punishing to go to the grocery store. You're paying twice as much as you were before. This hits people in the pocketbook very hard. We got to stop this madness. We can do it. We can reduce spending, get our supply chain shored up. We have actual, mature, smart leadership. So this is something we can fix if we get into Congress. But this is killing people. So I hear about grocery store prices. I hear a lot about education. What they're doing to your kids in school, it is absolute insanity. This is not a fight like we had 30 years ago, or do you raise taxes 1%, or do you lower taxes 1%? This is, can they teach a 5-year-old kid sexual acts in the classroom? This is pure insanity that we're having right now. And I hear a lot from the parents that they want to have a say about what's happening in the schools. Now, it's not to say they want to take over the teacher's job. They just want to make sure there's no crazy stuff happening. And the schools are sometimes making it very hard for parents to have that kind of input. So I hear a lot about education. And then, overall, the state of the economy. I went to visit a pork processing plant. They're paying 5 or 6 times more just for packaging, like the plastic you put around the meat or the wood pallets you store the meat on. They're paying 8 or 9 times more for that. So this is just killing our businesses. I hear a lot of that from business owners, that everything, all the inputs that they use to go into their products are just so much more expensive. And these are things that can be fixed with mature leadership in there, both at the congressional level and at the executive level. So we've really got to address these. That's what I hear the most from my future constituents.
He's Trump endorsed. He's running in West Michigan's 3rd district. John Gibbs worked with Dr. Ben Carson in Hunt and the Trump administration, and he is, I got to tell you, he's the right man for the job. And John, we always appreciate talking to you. Before I let you go, there were some questions from folks about whether or not there was going to be a debate with you and your opponent. And we heard that Hillary, I guess she's learned that same technique from Biden. She's hiding a little bit. People ask because the TV station put out a thing that said, hey, that you guys pulled out, you weren't going to take part in the debate. From what I understand, it wasn't really debate. And I know there's a couple of things that you guys would like to see. A live audience, an actual debate where folks are held accountable for their answers and not just given softballs, etc.
Yeah, first of all, we did not pull out at all. I had to reschedule that, so I sent them numerous alternative dates to reschedule for. And so I very much look forward to debating Hillary. It's going to be very exciting. So yes, we did not pull out at all. We recommended alternative dates. I will be going on Wood TV myself on September 27th. So that will not be a debate or roundtable, just be myself being interviewed by them. That'll be excellent. We are actively talking about doing a debate. I want it badly. let's do a debate. So we'll see if they accept our request for a debate. And as you said, Justin, it can't just be a roundtable where there's no audience or anything. I would like to do a real actual debate with an actual audience. That's a full-fledged debate. So I very much look forward to that. We have an outstanding offer out there. So I do very much want to debate my opponents. And I think it'll be a very good time.
VoteJohnGibbs.com is the website. You can find out how to help. And, of course, yard signs, donations, they all go a long way. Maybe volunteer, knock on some doors. John, appreciate you being here as always. Keep up the fight, my friend.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me on as always.
You got it. God bless. Quick break, and we're back in just a moment. Speaking about the southern border and, of course, the threat from a country, you've heard its name before. And what else do we face? Former Congressman and Ambassador Pete Huckster joins us with that, his new book, and how you can see him and have those conversations with him tomorrow. Explain it all after this on West Michigan Live, Wood Radio. Thank you, John. Always appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Have a good day. There we go, folks. John Gibbs. I got to tell you, very excited. Lots of people even telling me, gosh, I wish I could vote for you. You're not even in my district, but I want to vote for you. So folks are excited about him, too. Oh, man, we got lots to cover. Lots happening this morning. We'll try and get through it all. I saw something about the chat being slow. Is the chat slow on Facebook? Is there an issue with something, or the issue with the issue with the video? By the way, today I am wearing a vintage tee from the Justin store. See if I can show you. Let freedom roll, and it's the truck, and then America and Canada. Now these aren't for sale anymore. In fact, if you haven't, we always, appreciate your support when you go over to the store. But if you haven't been to the store lately, you may want to get over there because we're running a hoodie sale right now. $10 off every hoodie because it's we're starting to get that fall hoodie weather. I know we got a couple of days this next week. It's 65 degrees for the high. Is it? That's all we're going to see. So we've got that sale going on, but we're also going to retire some of these old tees. There's a few. Now, here's the conspiracy tee, the one that started it all. I need new conspiracy theories. All of them come true. While everybody else is raising the prices, we're dropping them on the T-shirts. We had them on sale for like $27. We've dropped them to $24.99. I got the Donkey Pox tees. All that you can click on the categories down here to find out more. The hoodies. We got the tinfoil hat everybody loves, books, and more. Of course, this says books because, well, there's just one right now. But that's just for now. I can't say too much about that. I've already kind of spilled the beans to some folks. If you're over on Locals, you probably heard some of this. If you're part of the Good Newsletter, maybe you're texting me. Maybe you have heard the stories about what's happening with the next book. And yes, it is coming in hot. So I can't wait to tell you all about that. But JustinBarclay.com. Click on the store and you'll get in there, justinbarclay.com/store. We'll put it all in. Tim in the chat says, I'm worried about the abortion issue and it's going to hurt conservatives all across America. It could. I think that is their goal. I'm not going to say this. Is it fortunately, unfortunately? But it's fortunate for us. The proposal here in Michigan goes so far that even folks who are pro-abortion in some sense, pro-choice they'll call themselves, they'll say that even this goes too far. This thing that is on the ballot, that's a proposal on the ballot in November, it takes parental consent away. That means if your child, let's say 16 years old, 17 years old, even younger, gets pregnant, you don't have to be notified as a parent. And it's not just for abortion. It's for any medical treatment. It's the radical extreme gender surgeries that they want to do to kids, the mutilations. You don't have to be notified as a parent. That's included. One of the other odd things that I've noticed is that it could, in fact, do away with the age of consent altogether with children because of the wording. It's so sloppily written. It was written very fast in reaction, a heated reaction, Roe versus Wade being overturned. And the way that it was written, It kind of would do. It looks to me like it says individuals, and Ryan Kelly and I talked about this weekend, but it looks like even children, because anybody would have their reproductive health and their freedom around it because of the way they've got it listed. Individuals, and that an individual. There's nothing in there about wording of language of age or any of that stuff. It would wipe out laws that are already on the books, not just the 1931 law that they want to wipe out here in Michigan, but even going even further, it would wipe out maybe even age of consent laws. We're going to have some more conversations with attorneys around that, but that thing's so extreme. I actually think that once people hear what's really in it, well, I think it'll help. I think it'll help us. But they're using that as a distraction. They want us to forget what Whitmer did. They want us to, but I will tell you, we will not soon forget. They want us to completely forget it all. And I don't know about you, but I won't forget. So there you have it. Let me check. The chat's a little slow for some, but I think it's faster for others. If you have an issue, maybe just try to refresh, reload. How are we looking on Rumble this morning? California. Wow. Fedora the Explorer. California tried to get age of consent in California lowered to 14. It's just disgusting, some of these people. All right, stand by, folks. We are about to go back on the air here. Here we go, folks. Let's stay in touch, folks, no matter what happens with big tech or the rest of it. Get my good newsletter so you and I can stay in constant contact. Get the good news they don't want you to hear anywhere else. Just go to justinbarclay.com/good news and sign up. It's a free newsletter. I'll send things to you, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that matter most. And, of course, you'll want to stay in touch. I'll give you that. Some of the biggest issues I think we're facing right now, some of the biggest threats we're facing right now, you surely aren't hearing about them in some of the mainstream, the local news, the nightly news. It's really relegated to folks like us who are engaged in talk radio and podcasts and things like that that are having to talk about. These books are being written. Matter of fact, one of those books been written by somebody you'll get a chance to hear from tomorrow night. Former Congressman and Ambassador Pete Hoekstra has written a book, and along with the folks that he's worked with, just a fascinating book talking about some of these threats. He joins us on the live line right now. Appreciate you being here with us, Ambassador. Thank you so much.
Hey, great to be with you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
So tomorrow is a really big event. These folks at Ottawa County Patriots, they have just been doing a bang-up job with education and letting people know some of the issues that we're facing on a daily basis here in America. But tomorrow's called Clear and Present Dangers. And I know most of what you'll probably be discussing will focus around one of the biggest threats that we don't hear a lot about, which is China. We just talked about the border, the open borders, and the fentanyl and the things that are flowing across the borders right now. That's another one of those issues. I know you're going to cover quite a few of those. But what are some of the biggest threats and some of the issues you've seen that you've even written about in your book?
Well, I've been, problem we have is there's just an abundance of issues that are out there to talk about. I mean, you've got, with this administration, you've got the economic issues. We're facing inflation. I just wrote a piece on what's happening in Europe. Not only are they seeing skyrocketing energy costs, but I think there's a lot of people in Europe who are expecting that they're going to have shortages of energy this winter. And, that's a crisis that if we look at Europe, we're following the same policies as Europe. we could be in the same place in 2 to 3 years because of those types of policies. You highlighted the border. I heard Senator Cruz talking about the border crisis. I was at the same conference that he was at over the weekend. They live those issues each and every day, the border crisis, fentanyl. And the one that I've been spending a considerable amount of time on is China, the Chinese Communist Party. This is the country that gave us COVID. We can debate whether it came from a laboratory or from nature. I personally believe and was part of a team that wrote a book, The CCP at War with America. We reached the conclusion there's a whole lot more evidence that this thing, COVID virus, developed in a laboratory and escaped or released. But there's no doubt that once it was in the Chinese population, the Chinese government facilitated the spread of this virus globally. They saw it as an opportunity to move their agenda forward. So you put this all together, and it is America at risk right now, and we need people to step up and be champions for facing these threats constructively and defeating these threats.
What can we do? I mean, obviously, you talked about policy. You talked about a lack of leadership right now, and electing those folks who would be bold. That are, a lot of those folks are on the ballot this November. What can we do, though, average, everyday folks?
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. Because this is, when I walk around West Michigan, when I'm in Holland, I'm at the grocery store, at the gas station, people say, Pete, what can we do? And so I've been talking to a lot of people about that. And, here's a suggestion for China. Okay. I was in a bookstore the other day, and our grandson was being baptized. And so we were looking for gifts for his parents. And, we went into a bookstore and we picked up some Bibles and looking at some Bibles and some other religious materials. My wife opened it up and she looked at the back page and it said, printed in China. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling for a boycott of China, but I think it'd be a really, really good idea if people just picked up, when they pick something up to buy it, look at where it's made.
Right.
And if it says made in China, put it back down and find something that's made in America, that's made in Western Europe, it's made in Australia, Japan, or Taiwan, or Korea. Buy that. Yeah. If it says made in China, put it back down. You impact 5, 10, 15% of China's imports into the United States. Again, I'm not calling for a total boycott. It's probably not practical, but 10% reduction in Chinese exports, that'll have an impact in China. Here's another one. BlackRock, ISS. These are Vanguard. If you take a look at your 401k, you'd probably find that some of your money is being managed by these companies. Well, they're pro-China. They're pro this environmental society and governance, ESG. So they vote your shares in these companies for leftist agendas. Call your broker and say, hey, I don't want any of my money invested in Vanguard. I don't want it invested by any products that are managed by BlackRock. People start moving $40,000, $50,000 around and put it into, funds that are there for one thing, and they invest in, and they direct the companies that they invest in. I want maximum return for my shareholders. I want you to focus on maximum return. I don't want you to get involved in all these political issues that may impact the economy and will lessen your economic returns. Yeah. Move your money into funds that focus on maximum economic return. Get out of BlackRock. These people that inhabit the halls of Davos, the World Economic Forum, and they're pushing political agendas. So those are just a couple of examples of things that you can do right now. BlackRock and these companies will notice.
Former Congressman Ambassador Pete Hoekstra on with us right now. Great points that you make about these. These are little things that we can do on a daily basis. They will add up. These are major impacts that they can have for a minor amount of effort. When you look at China and the threats that we faced, and they think kind of like on a different scale. I've often heard about how They think in 50 to 100-year spans, and we think in more so on the minute, on demand.
Yeah.
Our society right now. They've been planning a lot of this behind the scenes for years and years. I don't think people realize how close we were during the Trump administration in those final years there in 2020 with the trade war that was going on. How close we were to really maybe ending their control in some of these ways. And all of this that we saw in 2020, as you mentioned, this virus and how the world reacted to it. Biden said the pandemic is over last night. So I'm glad he's at least come out and said that. But boy, oh boy, the way things worked in 2020 and how it was all used to really bring us to our knees and the way we capitulated, it couldn't have worked out better for them.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I was in Congress in 2009, 2010 when, disappointingly, Congress passed Obamacare. And we said, wow, it's the end of health care. The end of our control over our own health care began in 2020 with the pandemic, where we allowed bureaucrats, Fauci, the health director in Ottawa County, to put mandates on us, where we had to wear masks, what businesses could or could not be open. My son said, these are the same people that said it was unsafe for me to go fishing in my fishing boat, or for me to have, two people sitting in a 14-foot fishing boat. This is, we gave up a whole lot more control over our health care in 2020 through the pandemic than what we did in 2029 and 2010 were bad enough with Obamacare. But the coup de grace was 2020. And this has now become normalized. I mean, we still get these daily or weekly announcements from the CDC. In Michigan this week, you should mask up in 9 different counties. And here are the counties. And it's like, no, you don't have that kind of control over us. And we got to, but yeah, we're now in a position where we have to claw back that freedom from government because, they think they now have, they've conditioned us to the point where they can say, we have this authority. We used it in 2020 and we'll use it again moving forward. But we're clawing back that freedom. And we need leaders that are going to do that and say, not only are we going to take back the freedom that we had before 2020, we're going to go back and claw back more and more freedoms because that's what America is built on. It's built on individual freedom and liberty. And we have given way too much authority to government at every single level. I was thrilled to see what people call them, extremists, the people in Ottawa Impact. They weren't extremists. They used the system.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like what the county commissioners were doing. And they said, we can run for office and we can change policy. They used the system. They're not extremists. They used the system and they beat the system. Great. Hallelujah. This is how the process works.
Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, I think we could probably have this conversation for another hour or so, but we don't have to because turns out tomorrow you'll be at the Ottawa County Patriots meeting. Folks want to stop in to see this. Looks like it'll be 6 to 9, public meeting 6 to 9 at Lighthouse Baptist there in Holland. Doors will be open at 5:30. I know they have a little reception ahead of time for some of the members, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your book, talk about these threats. Tomorrow, it's clear and present dangers to America, and you can have these conversations with Ambassador Hoekstra tomorrow in Holland at Lighthouse Baptist and, of course, Ottawa County Patriots. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward.
We'll have to do it again. Thank you. Appreciate that. Boy, I got to tell you, more conversations like that we need to have, folks. We got to continue to have these conversations. And from people that, you just don't hear from as much. Speaking up. Talking about some of the issues we're facing now tomorrow at the meeting. I'll be there. Lieutenant Colonel Denny Gillum will be there. Patrick Colbeck, Ryan Kelly, and, of course, Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, the entire information. You want to find out more, OttawaCountyPatriots.org. Time to get off the crazy train, right? Oh, it doesn't stop. It's like drinking from a fire hose at times. I got more. Mike Lindell suing the U.S. government. We'll tell you why. NBC caught in the act. An attorney on TikTok spills the beans about a campaign that's it's going. Speaking of Chinese apps, going on right now to influence the 2024 election and beyond. We'll talk about it. You'll want to hear about it. We'll get to it after this. It's West Michigan Live. I'm Justin Barclay. Have you guys seen this video? This attorney said that somebody offered to pay him money to say certain things on TikTok about Trump, and it's staggering stuff. Let me get it. They wanted him to make an anti-Trump video. This attorney says, I was just offered $400 to make an anti-Trump video. Hang on, let me pull up his information. We'll probably have to get into some of this during the after show. But he is spilling the beans. Preston, I think, is his name. Let me see. I got it somewhere here. Preston. Yeah, there he is. We got screenshots of their emails. The whole night. Preston Moore, that's his name. He goes by Trial by Preston on TikTok. Now, he has been critical of Trump at times. And he's just a lawyer who says, here's what I think is going to happen in this, that, or the other. So he's no Trump shill. But this came out over the weekend, and holy smokes, they've been busted. And I think it's good news, folks, because it shows you just how desperate they are. Hang on one second. We'll get to it.
Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
You're listening to News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
We got a jam-packed after show lined up for you today, folks. Yes, sir. Lots to discuss, lots to uncover. One of the stories I'm sure we'll be talking about, this lawyer on TikTok, they wanted to make an anti-Trump video, and he said they were going to pay him for it. Now, he is no Trump apologist. He has been critical of President Trump in the past. He has said some very interesting commentary from him. He's just an attorney who comments on cases and things. He's a trial attorney, but he had somebody send him from one of these organizations. You're going to love the name of this place, by the way. Sent him something to get him to make a video that was very anti-Trump, but they wanted him to use specific language and everything. And play some of this on the behind-the-scenes live stream that's happening right now, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Getter, YouTube, you name it, justinbarclay.com as well. You'll be able to hear the after show there too. But here's some of what he had to say.
I was just offered $400 to make an anti-Donald Trump propaganda post related to the January 6th investigation that is completely not true. I should start out this video by saying I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, so that should give a little bit of context to where I'm coming from. I'm an attorney. I post legal news and analysis on related topics. Okay, here we go with the story. So first thing first, I get an email from somebody with the Good Info Foundation. We'll talk about them a little more in a minute. I'm going to refer to this person as Jane. Jane sent me a message letting me know she represented the Good Info Foundation and that she was willing to offer a paid collaboration to discuss some topics related to January 6th. I said, sure, why not? I'll learn some more. Jane says the Good Info Foundation will give me $400 to make a post on my page and then share it to Instagram. So you see that blue link? All right, here we're going to follow it. These are the specific requirements in order to obtain that $400 of how I should refer to the January 6th Capitol raid.
Now, he's going to read through some of this. In fact, I will play more of this and we'll dive in a little bit further in the after show today. But here's what they have highlighted, the important notes. You got to say criminal conspiracy, not attempted coup, treason, or insurrection. You got to say Trump Republicans, not Trump and his allies. You got to say January 6th investigation, not hearing or trial. Call this an attack on our country or an attack on America or on Americans and call it a criminal conspiracy, committed crime. Talk about MAGA Republicans, etc. Make clear this is ongoing and unresolved, not past and done. Show voter agency. Turn the anger into defiance. They want a 15 to 60-second TikTok video. They want it reposted on Instagram. And they want to sway the election. And they've been caught. It's all out in the open. Good Info Foundation. So who are these people? Who is the Good Info Foundation? Now, the lawyer, this attorney, Preston Moore, refused to make the video. In fact, he felt it was more important that you knew what was going on, that he share this, that you understand that if he's being offered $400, which is the ridiculously low amount of money, I think. How many other influencers, how many other social media stars are out there being offered the same thing? How many bots, when you see retweeting something or tweeting something or attacking this or that, are paid? Or are they, in fact, shills controlled by the opposition? And what kind of propaganda is being used on you, me, and the rest of us? I will say this. This is good news. Good news. I don't know. It sounds like there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what we even realize. No, it's good news because it's all coming to light. It's all going to come to light. These folks on the left, the Democrats, they're desperate. They have no idea what's coming in November. And this election, they're trying to sway it. They're doing numerous things that I don't think any of it is going to work. But, folks, we have to stay vigilant. We'll dig into who the Good Info Foundation is and what else happened in this video where he describes it all coming up the after show. Plus, get into the Rona report. The pandemic is over. I don't know if anybody checked with Fauci on this today. Boy, I tell you what, he might be in mourning along with the Queen and many others. Hang on, folks. The after show kicks off in just moments. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Getter, all the usual places. The iHeartRadio app, you can listen to the podcast as well. Make it a great day, folks. God bless. Okie dokie. Yeah, they are desperate, Tammy. They are desperate. All right, we're going to get everything going here with the after show. I'll click all the appropriate buttons. And some of the inappropriate buttons, too. Stand by. Hang on. Some news about the railroad strike. Steve sent me this over the weekend. And I got some insight on that too, I think I wanted to share with you. It may not be over. Now, we were told that it's over and Biden saved the day, but it may not exactly be over, and there's more to this. I'll give you the latest coming up. Hang on, folks. Here we go. Welcome to the after show. It's the show after the show. That's why we call it the after show. Never a dull moment. And there's never enough time to get to everything within that hour that we have live on the radio with Westminster Live. And of course, folks, it's the fastest hour of radio. We do our best to cover all the things important, and we've got lots left over. You asked for it. The people demand it. We're going to give the people what they asked for, what they demand. Imagine that. Imagine that. So here we have it, folks. Welcome in. We appreciate it. Lots to discuss here this morning. Man, oh man. I want to thank our sponsors, Patriot Switch, the folks. In fact, Ambassador Hoekstra was just talking about switching some of the things we buy on a daily basis. We don't even realize it. Average everyday things like toothpaste and cleaning supplies and your shampoo and your snacks and things like that. You just don't even know where some of this stuff comes from. China. Well, he just talked about how you don't have to boycott everything. You can boycott a few things here and then. You can boycott the things that matter. And of course, there are some minor things that you can do that could have major impact. One of those is making the switch. The folks at PatriotSwitch.com making that happen. Over 2 million monthly shoppers already have made the switch. Products that are made in America, family-owned, Patriot-owned, no mainstream media advertising. You know, we've got all these different brands to choose from. You walk the aisles, even of your mom-and-pop grocery store, and you pick things off the shelf, and you think, oh, I know this brand, or I know that brand, and I like this or that. But you know, they're all owned by a handful of companies. All these brands that we're so familiar with. And BlackRock and Vanguard. Ambassador Hoekstra talked about those guys too and how bad they are. Some of the things that they want to see happen in our country. They are selling us out. Every day, though, we vote with our dollars, whether we like it or not, whether we realize it or not. We have a chance to make a difference. And you can. I say it's like they got a gun pointed at our head. Stop giving them the bullets. Stop giving them the opportunity to do those things. When you go to PatriotSwitch.com, you'll put in your name, your number, and your email and select my name, Justin, from the growing list of Patriots who are now spreading the word. When they ask, how'd you hear about us? Make sure you thank the folks at PatriotSwitch.com. One of the Patriots like me or another one just like you may get in contact and, of course, share with you how exactly we are making the switch. And, folks, you're going to love it. We made a switch back in February, my family, and I got to tell you, we have been very happy. Not only have we been very happy about the switch, but I got to tell you, we love the products, but we love the fact that we're just not spending our hard-earned money in places that don't deserve it anymore. PatriotSwitch.com. Thank you to the folks at PatriotSwitch.com again today. $400 he was offered to make an anti-Trump video. Attorney Preston Moore going viral on TikTok, the Chinese app from China.
I was just offered $400 to make an anti-Donald Trump propaganda post related to the January 6th investigation.
Now, he is an attorney who just posts these things on TikTok. It's like he'll see trials happening or he'll see stories that are in the news and he'll kind of break it down, explain it from his point of view, what's happening or what he thinks might happen. Now, the guy is not a Trump supporter. He is not a Trump shill. He's been very open about criticism here and there in the past. And so this is not a guy who you're thinking out there is out, making this up. His credibility is not in question. It all came from an email from a lady named Jane at the Good Info Foundation. They want to pay him $400 to make a video, is what they said. You thought fake news was bad enough. Now we got fake influencers. Well, we've had those for a while, but they're being influenced. That's the question. Who's influencing the influencers? They're being influenced by NGOs, such as the Good Information Foundation. Well, who are these people anyway? And what exactly they ask him to do? Well, I showed this earlier, but here are the important notes. They wanted him to use the words criminal conspiracy, not attempted coup, not treason or insurrection. I guess those things weren't polling very well. They wanted him to attack Trump Republicans, not Trump and his allies, but Trump Republicans specifically. Say January 6th investigation, not hearing or trial. Call this a, quote, attack on our country, an attack on America, Americans, or criminal conspiracy committed crime. Talk about MAGA Republicans, etc. It goes on and on and on. And it's all to shift and switch the thinking and, of course, impact the election this November.
Specific requirements in order to obtain that $400 of how I should refer to the January 6th Capitol raid. Number one, I must call this a criminal conspiracy. Number two, I must say Trump Republicans were responsible. Number three, I must frame it as an attack on my country, an attack on America or Americans, a criminal conspiracy, and a committed crime.
Not only did they want him to upload this to TikTok, whatever, but they also wanted him to upload it to Instagram as well. And this stuff is really a problem because, folks, you're seeing it in real time happen, how they shift narratives, how they're able to try and get the word out about these things, and then how the folks on the left and others just parrot what they're being told like good little mockingbirds.
The thing that struck me the most was this part, where I was told to talk about the aspects of the Trump campaign's plan. And I was supposed to say that the Trump campaign paid literally millions of dollars to make January 6th happen. So I figured, maybe I missed something. So I said, hey, Jane, what is the basis for the claim that the Trump campaign itself paid millions of dollars to make the January 6th siege of the Capitol happen? Jane doesn't answer the question. Hi, Preston. If you don't want to state that in the video, it's fine. You don't have to use all the bullet points provided. So I kept going. Sure, I'm just wondering if there's support for that claim. Jane doesn't answer again. Let me know if you are interested and the rate works for you. Thanks so much. I'm not interested and the rate doesn't work for me.
Can you imagine? $400. What a price to sell your soul.
And the rate doesn't work for me. This is the Good Info Foundation. They boast on their homepage that good information is the lifeblood of a democracy.
Well, who decides what's good? Folks, you're getting a look behind the curtain this morning. Share this with everyone. People need to see this. And that says it was a criminal conspiracy, all right, planned by Pelosi. That's actually a very fair point. Because some of these police officers had to be told to stand down. Somebody decided they didn't want the National Guard there. Somebody decided that they wanted the area open. Somebody decided they want police officers to open the doors to the Capitol and let people in. Preston Moore is the attorney. Here's a little look into the Good Info Foundation and the paid collaboration. So, the Good Info Foundation, who are these folks? The Good Info Foundation's list of board members and officers is a rogue gallery of deep state operatives. Attorney Jeff Childers, Coffee and COVID, tore this apart this morning, and I'll share with you what he found. For example, the Good Info Foundation's board chairman is Richard Stingel, a former State Department official and then MSNBC contributor. Alert independent investigators quickly dug up this video clip featuring Stingel speaking in 2012. Oh, you want to see this? This is good. Hang on, we'll pull up this video. Stingel, self-described former chief propagandist and supporter of domestic U.S. propaganda. And they're using it on us as we speak, right before our very eyes. Here's Stingle caught smoking. They're always, all of these people. It never ceases to amaze me. You remember, it's just like the Biden video where he's caught bragging about what exactly he did. Or the revolving door between mainstream corporate media outlets and the U.S. government. 3 paid analysts on MSNBC have left to join Joe Biden's administration. 4th paid MSNBC contributor helped write Biden's victory speech. Here, this is what the person tweeted that said when the video was released. Here is Richard Stingle talking about the propaganda in which he's engaged in.
You'll be the last question, but I just want to weigh in on that for 1 second. So there's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And you know, my old job.
What was this? Was this where Biden loose lip sync ships did his thing? This is at the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. Is this where he did the same thing where he's like, yeah, we paid the Ukraine. I told him he wasn't going to get the $1 billion. I told that son of a, you remember that? Withhold the money because they got to get rid of this investigator into the corruption, yada, yada. I told that. Was that Council on Foreign Relations too? Seems to me like it was. Anyway, more from Richard Stingle, basically bragging about what they're doing.
At the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda. Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And I don't necessarily.
And they are, because of the Smith Modernization Act? I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I'll look that up. Maybe somebody in the chat remembers. But it is the act a few years back, Obama signed it, that allowed them to start propagandizing. They made it legal. Before this, it was illegal to start using propaganda on the American people. Now, we were never divided like we are today. And then this was made legal, and you see what's happening behind the scenes. They're out telling now social media influencers what to say and how to say it.
So I think it's that awful. And this idea of a
let's go back
to do it to their own population. And I don't necessarily think it's that awful. And this idea of a news cartel. I mean, I was editor of Time in 2012 during that election. And I remember, you're competing against cartels and everybody. I remember being on a panel with the then editor of the New York Times, who said, it's really hard to break through these days. This is the editor of the New York Times saying it's hard to break through. I wanted to jump off the platform. Like, what's it like for the rest of everybody? So, I mean, there are cartels, but cartels don't have hegemony like they used to. The gentleman right there, last question.
I don't think you want to address the issue in terms of understanding what happened in the world. Because what is happening in America is what the United States flipped on the global south and in the third world, which we live with for many, many years in terms of a master narrative that was and still is propaganda.
You know what? I hate last questions. Don't you? I usually just want to end something before the last question. But at any rate, I want to thank this fantastic panel.
That guy made a great point. He's not going to answer it. But there's a guy that is part of that board of the Good Info Foundation. What that guy at the end there from the African country obviously said is that, hey, what you're saying is a problem that's happening in America right now with this propaganda and propagandizing the American people is what you've been doing the rest of the world for so long. I put the link in Facebook, and then I'll put it over in chat over on Rumble too, but I'll try and see if I can put this in our stack today. It's a House bill. You can read it, but it was signed in 2012 by Obama. It's the Smith-Munt Modernization Act is what it's called. The Smith-Munt Modernization Act. It was the HR 5736. You can read through it. Basically just makes propagandizing the American people legal. Now, you may never have even heard this before, but that's what the folks at the Good Info Foundation are in fact doing, and that's what they're all about. I'm not against propaganda, you heard him say. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population, and I don't think it's that awful. They have to do it to their own population. Well, folks, you wonder some of the weird stuff that we see, what we've gone through the last couple of years would never have been possible. These people, the news organizations, you're talking about the networks, the local news, if they're paying these social media influencers, what do you think they're doing with these folks? What do you think they're doing with the local news, the nightly news? Do you think they're getting paid? Richard's Good Info, a nonprofit public interest organization, is now paying TikTok's influencers at least $400 per post and more to propagandize Americans about January 6th and falsely claim that Trump paid millions to make it happen. That's not good info, folks. That's disinfo, as we know. And it means they think it what they think it means. You usually don't have to pay like-minded influencers to talk about good information. Another advisor listed on the Good Information Foundation's website is Dan Pfeiffer, who used to be Obama's White House communications director. The website identifies a woman named Tara McGowan as the founder. Influence Watch describes McGowan as a Democratic political operative and says this about her. Prior to creating the acronym network, McGowan was digital director for Priorities USA in 2016. McGowan was part of a direct pitch to encourage people to vote for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. In a video submission for use on social media platforms, former Obama administration staffers pleaded with voters to support Hillary Clinton because they were, quote, crazy for Obama, and voters should be crazy for her. Influence Watch didn't list Good Information, which runs the Good Info Project, but it did mention this interesting little nugget. In February 2021, McGowan formed the Project for Good Information, dedicated to establishing left-wing news outlets across the country. McGowan stated the goal of the organization was to counter influential and popular conservative media outlets. Like talk radio, like podcasts. Yeah. Fox News, maybe even. Oh, they're even being paid now. So, I mean, who do you trust? That's a great question these days. Who do you trust? Who can you trust? $65 million they tried to raise for the project. A whole lot for just one single project. Pretty ambitious. $65 million. So wouldn't you like to know where all the millions to pay for top-tier deep staters and buy-off social media influencers are coming from? Oh, wait. Somebody already tracked it down, he says. Good Information Incorporated, a public benefit corp backed by Reid Hoffman, launches to counter disinformation online. And yes, inside, hidden deep inside, like the deep state, hidden deep inside is in that documentation a multi-million-dollar Series seed investment by Reid Hoffman, joined by investors Ken and Jen Duda, Insight, and ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you know it, there he is at the middle of it all, just like everything else, George Soros. What a shock! George Soros. Isn't that interesting? Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers makes the connection. He says, let's go back now and think about some of the talking points because the evidence and interesting new narrative pivot. He said, first of all, the Good Info Foundation advised Preston to call it a, quote, criminal conspiracy, not an attempted coup, treason, or even an insurrection. Those words and terms must not be polling well. Or maybe they just aren't a great predicate for an indictment. Instead, the Good Info Foundation clearly prefers the term criminal conspiracy. Second, they echoed the White House's recent talking points, advising Preston to say the MAGA Republicans were to blame. Biden's out there talking about the MAGA Republicans. threat to democracy. Not Trump and his ally. The MAGA Republicans, just one data point, but it sure looks like coordination with Team Biden. Finally, that means Biden is involved in propagandizing the American people. Think about it, folks. Finally, the Good Info Foundation clearly wants its paid influencers to link anger at the criminal conspiracy with voting against Republican candidates. In other words, they're trying to influence the elections. Election interference. What does it all suggest? Well, he says it suggests that Democrats are ramping up to argue that there's some kind of ongoing criminal conspiracy directly fueled by President Trump with the enthusiastic support of MAGA Republicans. He says, I do think there is a criminal conspiracy, all right, except it's a criminal conspiracy to influence the elections through fake news and disinformation directly fueled by lunatics like George Soros with enthusiastic support of deep state actors. He goes on to say, though, but there's still some good news here, lots of it. First of all, if they're backing down from the term insurrection, that must mean the old narrative bit the dust. It fell flat. It didn't work. You weren't buying it. Second, if they have to pay influencers $400 a post, they're obviously not seeing a lot of volunteerism. The more expensive it is to pay for this message, the less it must make sense to ordinary Democrats. In other words, media influencers, people that normally say this stuff just because they believe it, they're brainwashed, special liberal and anti-Trump ones. I'm not saying Preston is anti-Trump, but he certainly isn't a Trumpy, as Biden would call him. Attorney Preston Moore, not a Trump supporter. But even he didn't fall for this. In fact, he's turned the tables and exposed them. Now, I'm sure he'll pay a price for it. But whatever it was worth it. Because he did the right thing. He stood in his principles. And he exposed them. They overreached. Pitching their little scheme to someone that they didn't know for sure would keep it quiet. So they're either running short of regulars or they're making a huge pre-election push. It's worth reflecting, though, that they wouldn't be doing this at all if it hadn't already worked with a lot of other social media influencers. They wouldn't be doing it at all if they thought they had everything sewed up in the midterms. Bottom line is social media is so influential now as an alternate source of news. They are now having to spend tons of money trying to push their disinformation online, he says. Finally, here are the issues that Good Info Foundation appears to highlight as disinformation on their website. You ready for it? You thought maybe you might find these interesting as well. Vaccine skepticism. These are issues for disinformation concern. January 6th, 5G concerns, election skepticism. This is almost like when the fact checkers come in and tell you something isn't true. Now, I've got to get it out. Well, I don't have it with me, but I'll at least get the theme music out for it. And if you have yours, your tinfoil hat, you might just want to pull it out and put it on. You know, the fact checkers tell you something isn't real, something isn't right. Doesn't it always tell you? You're going to get a little bit of a spidey sense tingling. Maybe, wait a minute. Maybe what they're trying to tell us here is this is real. So this foundation, the Good Info Foundation, or GIF, says they are fighting vaccine skepticism, January 6, 5G concerns, and election skepticism. That tells me that we ought to be concerned or question at the very least. Maybe all of those. Coffee and Cove's Jess Childress writes, I didn't used to be too interested in the whole 5G thing, but this gives me pause. I get it. I understand. He says he might have to look into it now. And the website also features scary pictures of Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson. So there you go. Some of the news you won't hear anywhere else. No one has paid us yet to sell out. Not enough money. $400 would not do it. I would tell you, $400 wouldn't quite be enough. But there you have it. Thanks to Preston Moore, who you and I may not agree with everything on. We may not agree with him on all of these different things, but at least he stood for his principles. At least he revealed the truth. Now we know. And knowing is half the battle. Speaking of social media, we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow in our Tech Tuesday subject. Oh, they did try to pay me for the jab thing, and that did not work either. They did want to pay me for that. That's a very good point, Tricia. Thank you for reminding me. They did want to pay me to take but I said no. And talk about it. They wanted me to talk about it, too. It wasn't going to be enough money. Probably a little bit more than $400. But not, they didn't offer to dump a truckload of money, a dump truck load of money in my front yard, anything like that. Wasn't enough to move the needle. Get it? Court rules against social media companies in free speech censorship fight. The Federal Appeals Court in New Orleans has ruled in favor of a Texas law that seeks to rein in the power of social media companies like Facebook and Twitter trying to censor free speech. The decision by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, handed down on September 16th, upholds the constitutionality of a Texas law signed by Governor Greg Abbott last year and delivers victory for Republicans in their fight against big tech censorship. Today, we reject the idea that corporations have a freewheeling First Amendment right to censor what people say, U.S. Circuit Court Judge Andrew Oldham wrote in the opinion. Because the district court held otherwise, we reverse its injunction and remand for further proceedings. Lots of folks in this lawsuit, massive victory for free speech, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton calls it, who has been a staunch backer of the law. Held the court's decision in a statement on social media. I just secured a massive victory for the Constitution and free speech in federal court. Big tech cannot censor and the political voices of any of us Texans. Well, they're doing it to me here in Michigan. They are, they took us offline. They wouldn't let us stream for about a month before the primary. And ever since, we've been kind of just throttled back. We've been shadow banned. Things don't get out like they used to. I believe God's bigger, though. I believe something bigger. And by the way, I believe he can get our message out. But you can help. So share the broadcast. If you're ever watching us online, make sure you share what we're talking about. Make sure you share what we're doing so that we can continue to get the word out about these things. A Michigan coffee shop is under fire now. I don't know if you saw this story over the weekend. Turns out those pro-choicers aren't really all about choice. In fact, they only want one choice to be made. They highlight this. It's in Kalamazoo, a coffee shop causing a stir with a pro-life promo. Thanks to Ladina, by the way, who sent this in. Notice you can't even raise money to help women in crisis. These folks aren't really pro-choice. They're anti-choice. Simply, they're pro-abortion. They would mandate murder if they could. The story is out now, a coffee shop in Kalamazoo. Folks on local supporters found this story yesterday before anybody else. People getting the word about some of these stories. I post them there first. Outrage is foaming up on social media, they say, due to a Michigan coffee shop's pledge to give a portion of its Friday and Saturday proceeds to a Christian group that opposes abortion. Well, that's not entirely true either, though, is it? They are opposed to it, but they are out helping women in crisis. It's a crisis pregnancy center. Five Lakes Coffee Shop, which looks like a fabulous place. We ought to go for a cup of coffee there sometime. And I'll work that out. West Main Street in Kalamazoo donating 20% of sales from turned-in coupons to Alternatives of Kalamazoo Crisis Pregnancy Center, according to a Five Lakes Coffee representative. The center is a faith anti-abortion nonprofit organization providing medical and counseling services. Some people on social media are calling for a boycott of the coffee chain, which originated in Sturgis. They want to boycott the coffee chain because they're giving to a pregnancy resource center? I mean, it's just crazy. You know what these pregnancy resource centers do? They help these women in so many ways. Not just decide not to have an abortion, but they help these women with resources so that they can support and keep their child. Some of the things that they do, you know, you often hear that argument. Well, they just don't want your kid to get the abortion. They just want to force people to keep you. And then what do these Republicans do? They don't help out once the kid is here. That couldn't be further from the truth. These organizations are fighting back by helping these mothers, supporting them throughout the journey. You never hear that, though, do you? So people don't even want you to support these organizations anymore. It's not enough to say, "Hey, we don't necessarily believe in it, but everybody should have a choice." No, they don't want you to have a choice. Even these people don't even really want you to have a choice. Paul Smith, the owner of Five Lakes Coffee, said he's aware of the criticism, but stands behind his partnership, even if it costs him customers. I'm not asking for everyone to agree with what we do, and likewise, I don't necessarily need to agree with what everyone else does. Imagine that. What a stance. Maybe we could do a little coffee rendezvous to support these folks. Maybe even this week. Anybody up for coffee in Kalamazoo? It'll be a little bit of a drive for me, but we could get together. Let me know if you'd be up for that. I'd love to do it. We're talking about the border, in fact. It's just some staggering statistics coming across the border as we speak. Tulsa, the police department said they arrested 7 people who were allegedly distributing fake Xanax, cocaine, and fentanyl. That fentanyl pouring across the border. People dying at alarming rates. Young people, in fact. Saw another one this weekend. It's heartbreaking. A young lady who died, a girl who died because of a fentanyl overdose. Venezuela empties prisons, sends violent criminals to U.S. border, says Department of Homeland Security report. This, according to the latest. By the way, they're coming across the border right now. You ever wonder, you see fighting age males. What are they doing here? A recent Department of Homeland Security intelligence report received by the Border Patrol instructs agents to look for Venezuelan inmates released from entering the U.S. According to a source within the CBP, the report reviewed Breitbart, Texas, indicates the Venezuelan government under the leadership of Nicolas Maduro Moros is purposely freeing inmates, including some convicted of murder, rape, and extortion, and sending them to America. Across the border, the intelligence report warns agents that freed prisoners have been seen within migrant caravans traveling from Mexico towards the U.S.-Mexico border as recent as July. The source not authorized to speak to the media told Breitbart, Texas, the move is reminiscent of a similar action taken by Cuban dictator Fidel Castro during the Mariel boat lift in the 1980s. The report does not state whether the released prisoners were traveling as a cohesive group, but does state it was commonly shared knowledge that they were amongst the groups that are headed this way. There's more on this story. I'll put it in the stack. It is very concerning. And a story that was sent to me, I think Steve sent it to me over the weekend, developing. Deal to avert rail workers strike may fall apart. This from the Gateway Pundit. The Biden regime last week struck a tentative deal with rail workers to avert a strike. However, the deal has the potential to fall apart because the union workers say they don't have all the details on paid sick leave and voluntarily assigned days off. I will tell you another reason why I believe that it could possibly fall apart. You ready for this one? This is why I think that it may possibly fall apart. On Friday, the Biden administration swooped in to save the day. That was supposed to be the top story. We averted disaster. But what was the top story Friday? Do you remember? Do you remember what the top story was Friday? Because it wasn't this story about the railroad. Now, it was, thank God, not going to happen because we told you about how dangerous, how much of a disaster it would be. But do you remember what the top story was on Friday? In fact, it was one theme altogether, but two major events. It was the 50 dropped off at Martha's Vineyard. The 50 dropped off at Martha's Vineyard from crossing the border, and it was the several others dropped off at Kamala Harris's doorstep there in Washington, D.C. That all broke in the morning, and they ran with it. Why? Because they thought, oh, this is going to be so negative. We'll be able to turn this back on these guys. No. In fact, Biden didn't get the pop that he thought he was going to get. Just at the auto show here talking about electric cars here in Michigan. Then he's on 60 Minutes this weekend. He's over at the Queen's funeral over in the UK. Then they got a big UN meeting. They're all coming back to New York after they get this done. And now they drop this this is brilliant. Drop this Martha's Vineyard thing in their laps. Gavin Newsom was out criticizing Ron DeSantis. And gruesome Newsom out in California getting melted like the wax figure he is. This is DeSantis firing off against him over the weekend, by the way.
So the governor of California sent a letter to the Department of Justice saying you need to prosecute Texas and Florida governors. And all I can say is I think his hair gel is interfering with his brain function.
I think his hair gel is interfering with his brain. Yeah. So the story on this rail thing may not be over, folks. I would continue to warn you. This should have been a warning for us. This should have been something that thankfully we were able to get around it, but who knows? Who knows where we go? They never let a good crisis go to waste. The Gateway Pundit reporting last week about an impending major freight rail strike on Friday. A strike would be devastating the U.S. supply chain and already fragile Biden economy, they said. Biden's Labor Secretary, Matty Walsh, helped negotiate a 24% pay increase over a period of 5 years to union workers. The Biden regime also, by the way, that's another big buy-off for the November elections. Biden regime also helped negotiate better working conditions and caps on what they have to pay out of pocket for health care. Biden called it a win for America on Thursday. This agreement is a validation of what I've always believed. He said that unions and management can work together for the benefit of everyone. This is a win for America. Of course, he probably didn't say it that eloquently, but the tentative deal may go sideways because union workers are still ticked off, not happy with the contracts. The Hill reporting that nearly 36 after the agreement was announced, rail workers said they still don't have concrete details on sick leave and voluntarily assigned days off. That's raised some doubts about just how strong the new contract language is. It may be back on. We had seen some issues over the weekend with the Amtrak folks. No matter what happens, folks, get prepared. I've been talking about this for a while now. This should be just another warning. If you haven't done so already, preparewithjustin.com. You can stock up because who knows, the food, the energy, all the issues we're going to have if this type of thing does go through. And I think they love having it in their back pocket to pull it out later. Save $500 on a one-year food supply from the folks at My Patriot Supply. Preparewithjustin.com. $500 save. Everybody's raising the price of food right now. The price of everything else. These folks are actually lowering it. You'll get it fast, you'll get free shipping, and you'll save $500 on a price of 1 year food supply, 2,000 calories a day. The stuff lasts 25 years on the shelf or longer. But act today. They've got a price drop on their solar power and cooking kit. You can save $233. Lots of great ways for water filtration and other things you may not have even thought about, like coffee, seeds, air purification. Preparewithjustin.com. That's preparewithjustin.com. Get ready, folks. We don't know what's coming. I know that God's still on the throne no matter what. But wouldn't it be great to be in a position to not only be able to help yourself and your family, but maybe others around you? Be able to minister to folks, be able to help them in their time of need. Yeah. I agree. GOP voters virtually impossible to poll now after Biden's MAGA Republican speech, at top pollster is saying. Robert Cahaley, folks at the Trafalgar Group, the chief pollster there, saying that after Biden came out and called MAGA Republicans the enemy of the state, the people already who were skeptical of answering polls online just don't want to do it now at all, do they? No. I mean, if somebody calls you or asks you to poll on something or sends you a link or a message on text, are you going to reply to that? No. Not if you don't know the person. No, I'm not going to answer your poll. Cahaley noted that in 2016, a number of presidential polls and predictions regarding Trump and the opponent Hillary Clinton provided to be inaccurate. In 2016, Trump supporters were called deplorables. And other unflattering names. Cahaley said on Twitter, this was a major contributor to the shy Trump voter phenomenon that most polling missed, which resulted in major loss in public confidence for polling following the election, he said. People who supported Trump in 2020 or espoused conservative values out of step with the, quote, woke culture found themselves being canceled or doxxed. He said this led to hidden votes that most polling undercounted. Therefore, Trump's support in key battleground states exceeded expectations. Probably even exceeded results, if you know what I mean. He's now describing this new group as submerged voters. They aren't putting stickers on their cars, signs in their yards, posting their opinions, or even answering polls. Yeah, I know. Feel the same way when I talk about it on here, on the radio and whatnot. But I don't have signs in my yards or anything. First of all, I live on a street. There's not a lot of people on our street. It's kind of a cul-de-sac. There's not a lot of traffic going by. But these people really, they just average Americans. They're so fit to be tied. They say, we've had enough of this. We want to return to reason, common sense. So it's no wonder hard or tough to poll the submerged voter. Folks, a Rona report you won't want to miss. The pandemic is over. Mr. Booster, somebody check on him today. Somebody check on the high priest of health. I don't think he's probably not doing too well. He's in mourning. Whether it's over the Queen or the fact that the pandemic is over, the fat lady has sung. It is over, at least according to Biden anyway.
Is the pandemic over? The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
Now, Biden doesn't know whether he's going to run in 24 or not. He made that statement on 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley, over the weekend. He also doesn't know who he is or where he is. Shelley, what's the question about the auto show? Is monkeypox over? Good question. The patron saint of pandemics. I call him the patron saint of Wuhan. Saint Anthony of Wuhan. That's it, yes. Patron saint of pandemics. I love that. What else? What else is out there? Masks prevented exactly no one from getting COVID in the United States, according to an NIH report. 99%, over 99% of Americans have the COVID antibodies now. It's tucked neatly away on a little page on the NIH website. So that means that everybody got it at some time or another. Everybody got it. Everybody got it at some point or another, and your mask did not help. Further proof that the masks don't work. And if the pandemic's over, a lot of questions like, why are they still making these kids who are in Head Start? 3 to 5 or whatever. Why are they making these kids still wear masks?
Come on, man.
Well, what's the story with that?
Come on, man.
It's just ridiculous. It's torture. It's flat out child abuse. While the pandemic is over, somebody ought to tell New York, because apparently they're still firing teachers there. I know. They're still firing teachers in New York. Teachers who refuse to get the jab. There are plenty of states you can go to, Florida being one of them. But New York hasn't gotten the memo yet about this pandemic being over. The Post ran a story this weekend, headline 850 more unjabbed New York City teachers, aides fired for not complying with mandate. Turns out that about 1,300 Department of Education employees took a deal last year that gave them a year's unpaid leave in exchange for an agreement to be jabbed by September 5th of this year, or be deemed to have voluntarily resigned. Well, the year has finally come and gone. Of the 1,300 courageous deferrers, some 450 finally gave in and took the shot, but the rest held out. All of them now terminated, including 225 teachers, 135 paraprofessionals. Actually, given what we know about the jabs, 450 is more than I would have even guessed. Coughing COVID's Jeff Childers writes. Anyway, if you're an unjabbed, newly resigned, experienced New York City paraprofessional considering moving to Florida, he says, give my office a call. Strong earthquake hit Taiwan over the weekend, reported as anywhere from 6.4 to 7.2 on the Richter scale. Images included everything from shaking buildings to avalanches to toppled buildings. According to the Hills report, there's only one fatality as of yesterday afternoon. Happy there weren't many casualties, but if Taiwan has another earthquake or more serious one, China could just walk in under the banner of humanitarian aid. Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers goes on to say, it's a good thing the Chinese don't have secret earthquake technology. You know what? I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to leave that one alone. Lots to cover today. We did our best to get to it all. Let me see. Is there anything left that I need to make sure that I get to? I think this is good news. She's running for Congress. She said enough is enough. Out of Utah, this granny's going to win. She's done a rap song, and it's part of her campaign video. She's going viral for it. And I love her. I think you will too. It's real. It's 100% real. It's not made up. You can check her out online. in Utah, this granny, I think she's got a good shot. Check her out.
Hey, Utah District 12, listen up right here. There's a new name on the ballot for the Senate this year. My name is Linda Paulson, Republican and awesome. Love God and family and the Constitution.
Yeah,
I tried
Linda.
to get another conservative to run. Nobody could do it, so I'm getting it done. I'm pro-religious freedom, pro-life, pro-police, the right to bear arms and the right to free speech. I want less government control and regulation, want to stop and expose all political corruption where there's integrity, morality, accountability. Government programs should lead to self-sufficiency and support traditional family as the fundamental unit of society. But in schools, they're pushing for new beliefs. And just to clarify this, because there's some who can't define this, as a female adult, I know what a woman is.
Oh, gosh, that is hilarious. Go, Linda. Linda Paulson out of Utah. Some good news before we wrap things up today. Linda doing it justice. Congratulations, Linda. Thank you for stepping up and running. We need more folks to step up and get involved, whether it's, of course, running or maybe supporting those folks who are running. Maybe it's knocking on doors. Maybe it's just talking to your friends and family about some of these things, particularly what's on the ballot here in November, these candidates and also the proposals. You did a great job this weekend. Folks coming together at GR Church for that the big event to fight these two proposals with Ryan Kelly. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Ottawa County Patriots and their group meeting starting about 6 o'clock tomorrow. That's going to do it for us today. You grab shirts online like this one. Let freedom roll. This is a vintage t-shirt. They're not available online anymore, not this one. But we do have quite a few others. Anything you ever buy or grab from our store at justinbarclay.com, of course, goes to help support us, keep the show on the air. And we always appreciate that support. Anytime you buy something from somebody you hear on the air, one of our sponsors, one of the folks that support this program, you help make it all possible. That's why we appreciate you. Anytime you share something, maybe just the stream here, you help make it all possible. You join locals, you help make it all possible. It's free to join. In fact, if you want to join and support us, you can do so too at justinbarclay.com/locals. We appreciate you folks. Make it a great day. God bless.